And we're back. So if you follow me on Instagram or on Facebook, you could see that I was in Paris for the weekend and I painted a lot while I was walking around and painting. So I didn't really have time to make a video, so that's why this video is not on the regular Monday schedule. But I just wanted to show you my painting process when I'm on the road. And for that I took my camera and my stand with me, and I forgot the stand in the car, and then I wouldn't have had time to actually, well, I could have had time, but I didn't manage to film one of my watercolors. So instead I had one that I didn't have time to color, so I decided to color here at home. And I used the new Arteza brushes that I had with me on the vacation as well, with which I've been painting, and they're really good and really fun for quick watercolor on the go, because you have this push, you can push it and the water comes out of it. But anyways, I talked enough. Let's get into the video. So I thought before I get started, I'll just run through some of the sketches I did in Paris. This is sort of my style, which is not really watercolory. I just use watercolors, so I don't do a lot of blending, even though you can see me try here and there. But this paper is really not watercolor paper, or it has a thickness to it. So I started here. So it was in the morning while we had brunch, I would say, at the place. And it was this really nice sunlit place. I should have gone darker in this areas, but it was still fun. From then we moved on to lunch, which was this drawing. So I had an empty page because the back sides sometimes are empty. So this was the mom of my girlfriend while we were having lunch, and I was just sketching around. Then another sketch in the same locale, I was just looking at the bottle and the reflections in the bottle. This was actually quite interesting, especially drawing it with a ballpoint pen is quite limiting. This was later on in the Sacré-Cœur. This is one of my favorite drawings from that day. It actually, I didn't think it would come out well, but I saw a nice gradient in the shading and the details, so from blue to nice and warmer browns, and this was actually a really fun drawing to do, I must say. This is my other favorite painting from this trip, which was at the Natural History Museum, and it was on the wall, so sort of a statue on the wall, and it was just really fun. I didn't know if I could catch it correctly, but I think it came out quite well. It was a lot of fun. And then moving on, we went to the floral park. It's a huge park, and in one of its edges there was like a floral area, but I didn't plan enough time for this, so I had to rush it a little bit, and you can see that. But basically that's all my sketches and paintings in my watercolor sketchbook. What I liked here is actually the water came out nice. I managed to do a little bit of wet on wet technique there. And then that night we had dinner, and it was already night, at darkness, but there were like street lights, and I captured it, and it was beautiful. It was September and still 26, 28 degrees at night, so really nice. Yeah, that's it. So let's get into the video. In this video, I'm going to finish one of the watercolor sketches I started in Paris. I took my trusty travel watercolor set with me and 3 new Arteza watercolor brushes. I discovered these types of brushes 2 years ago at an urban sketch meeting. When I first saw them in use, I was amazed that you can watercolor without the need of a separate water dispenser and carrying like different brushes with you. These types of brushes are super helpful for when you want to do a watercolor on the go, because they incorporate the water in them already, and with a simple squeeze you can put more water onto your paper or palette, so you don't always have to dip in and out, and it's just really super handy when you're on the road. I don't really use any specific watercolor techniques, but because my sketchbook is not a watercolor sketchbook, as I mentioned before, and it can handle a bit of water, but I really can't do anything fancy. But the good thing is really that since it handles a little bit of water, it's good for the quick type of sketches that I usually do. In this case, I can do some basic color shifts, or maybe one layer of wet on wet sort of technique. I wanted to step away from my travel set of watercolors and use some Arteza watercolors, since not so long ago I got a really nice package of watercolors from Arteza. And I will definitely have another bigger video where I'm going to use and I'm going to test the full Arteza art supplies, but in this video I just wanted to give them a quick go to see how they will work. And it was also really just showing you my quick urban sketching and watercoloring technique, if you can call it that. A fair warning before going into this video though, I attached my camera to an arm that was fixed to the table, and with every little brush stroke, some movement went into that arm, which also made the camera shake or oscillate slightly. So my excuses if this video gives you seasickness, and next time I will either use a different stand or I will figure out a way not to have a shaky camera. Other than the watercolors and the brushes, you should definitely take some toilet paper or paper tissue with you when you go sketching in a city. It is important to clean your brushes, and these are easy, dispensable things to clean your brushes, but also to clean the palette where you mix your watercolor. Sometimes I start drawing with a pencil sketch, other times I go straight into an ink drawing, but I feel that the dark outlines just suit my style more, so sometimes even at the end after I colored just a pencil sketch drawing, I go over it with a fine liner. I use the Rotring fine liners because those are water resistant, so quite perfect for watercoloring. Usually I tend to go with very light color glaze and slowly build up on top of it with darker or more saturated areas. If I have a bigger free area, I also try to do a little bit of wet on wet, as I mentioned during my Floral Park sketch. There I mentioned the water, but most often I use skies because those are the big open areas. So I just go in with a light blue and quite watery, so the surface is still wet, and I go in a darker blue, and I also come in with some different colors, different hues depending what the sun does, and I just pop them down. So also in this case you can see the upper area is a bit darker, and I go as I go towards the church it becomes lighter. Being used to the hard color blocks in my travel set, I was not quite sure how much color or water I should use, so I definitely overdid both here, but it is a learning curve after all, so I guess next time will be better. Either way, how I use watercolors are almost like how I use my marker set, so just go over areas where I want them to be darker. Obviously I don't go over with the same shade, I mix in darker shades of the same color, and I always have to wait a little bit for it to dry. That is also why I use not necessarily watercolor paper, because I feel this paper dries quite fast. When the idea with watercolor paper sometimes is that you want the water to stay so you can work a little bit longer. But with the fast drying, it is really perfect for quick outdoor sketches. And yeah, there is not much else I can tell you here. I just really had a lot of fun with this, and I had a lot of fun on the trip, and I'm not good at watercoloring, and I'm still learning a lot, but it is just really fun, and it's fun to draw outside. So while it's summer, this is one of my favorite hobbies. And as I mentioned, these Arteza watercolor pens are just super handy, and they're really fun, and I can really recommend them if you are on the go and want to do quick watercolor. I left links to the US and UK shops of Arteza in the description, and if you use the coupon code RobertLasloKiss1, you can read it also down in the description, you will get 10% off your purchases. And since these are affiliate links, you will also help out yours truly. Anyways, I wanted to say sorry that the video was late, but with the trip and work piling up a bit, I really ran out of time. I still hope that you enjoyed this little watercoloring exercise, and if you did, leave me a like or consider subscribing if you would like to see more content like this. And also comment, I always love reading your comments, and I'm trying to better the channel. You can follow me on Instagram if you would like to see more regular drawing related updates as well. And with that, I wish you a great week, and see you folks next time. Bye bye.